I've not played this one before, and when I looked at this scenario, I have to admit an immediate bias towards bidding for the Germans. On closer inspection though, it was clear both sides have some good units, and the heavy metal on offer for either player is quite intimidating. Further reading of the SSRs revealed some interesting and challenging terrain for the Germans and some difficult setup choices for the Russians. After talking with my newly met opponent, Doug Leslie, via Discord, we concluded the bidding and I got my choice, the Germans, and Doug got the balance. I had done some brief research while preparing for that moment, but I set about getting my head around things in more detail as I dove into the rulebook and read about elite status, control, checked out the relative armor factors, TK numbers and special ammo options boosted by eliteness, motion status, and finally but not least, the deep stream and frigid conditions. With the Germans having to navigate the stream or cross the single bridge to get to the victory areas, I pondered my group selection, deciding that the ELR-5 assault engineers were the best units to brave the frigid water, as their replacement would result in splitting into two half squads, something that could later be fixed by recombining if necessary. But more on this fallacy later. This supported my early thoughts about the strategy, which was to be able to perform some flanking manoeuvres to exploit the early Russian setup if the opportunity arose. Noting that while entering the frigid stream causes CX, there is nothing to say you can't already be CX. By using 9 Neg 1 leaders in such a stack, they would replace 8 1 leaders. No great loss there, but would allow 8 movement factors and some useful ground could be gained and perhaps some surprise effect. At this point, I was happy to throw in a platoon of 548s with a 9 Neg 1 leader and a Stug across the stream, perhaps alongside the 838s, perhaps not. Again, more on this later. The Stug would have to check for bog though, a risk I'm still assessing. I also plotted placement of smoke from one or more of the other Stugs, anticipating a fire lane down the only accessible road, and some VBM sleeves to force its cancellation. Thinking this through, I feel the Russians should sacrifice something to slow the Germans, putting a unit in 2A M10 or O12. They won't last long and will be eliminated, but given the other setup restrictions, an LMG, 458 and concealment counter seem a decent choice. The smoke alone won't deal with the fire lane, but will render squad fire and residual firepower ineffective. I also thought that perhaps the King Tiger should come from off-board to avoid that first awful nervous set of start dice rolls for mechanical reliability. My initial plan of attack, absent of the actual Russian setup, is to divide the Germans in two, one to overwhelm one victory condition area, south or north, and the other to pin and isolate other forces so that reinforcements can't be shifted to respond. Of course, this ignores the Russian heavy metal that arrives on turn 2 or 3, but infantry will be needed to control the buildings, and so establishing overwhelming force in one area first and dealing with the infantry there could also be the key to success in the alternate victory condition area. After seeing Doug's setup, I decided to go for the northern victory conditions first, sweeping through the centre, supported by a northern flank force. I will sacrifice some units to replacement to do this, and risk a bog coming out of the frigid stream. My first objective is the squad in 2A M10, but I plan to smoke and bypass the location in the movement phase to get in position with most of my force for a jump off on the second objective in turn 2. The Northerners are there to put maximum pressure on 10 FF7. I hope to break and perhaps eliminate these, as they will be in a sticky situation if all goes to plan. The Southerners will go slow. They will recover, X the leader, from the frigid stream by virtue of the 5 ELR and recombining. Note that during play, this was revisited, more on this later. They won't risk too much, but hopefully make steady progress into the southern part of town, joining the fight for the last victory locations. This plan will surely not survive, but it will give me a skeleton and a way to pace myself and be more deliberate about commitment of forces. I am concerned about the Russian AFVs and also the ability for the Russians to collapse back onto the final objective. I think this is what I would do if I were the Russians. Let's see how it plays.